So British property portal, A Place in the Sun, one of the main ones that has a lot of properties in Spain, Portugal, France, and other parts of the world. Did a survey, quarter 1 survey this year to ask their subscribers how COVID had affected their purchasing interest or objectives, and Brexit as well. Now, this is a British set of results, and is based on 7,000 people's responses. So it's a fairly accurate representation, I would say, of maybe what we can read into it. So looking down here, it's saying that 76% of responders say that Brexit hasn't put them off the EU. Okay, not sure that tells me much. 24% has. So that 30% are more motivated than ever. That's to do with what's happened over the last year, I guess. I'm surprised that number isn't higher, to be honest with you, given that they've been locked up in the house for most of the year. The next statistic that I thought are interesting is where they go for research to do with buying a property overseas. And according to the answers, news articles, social media, buying guides, and watching webinars. Okay, and then the next bit is particularly interesting, is what they're looking for. And here there's some, the devil's always in the detail. Let me move myself out of the way. So 39% are looking for a budget of 100 to 200K. This is pounds, and 37 have a budget of under 100K. So for many markets, such as the one on the Costa del Sol, doesn't leave a lot of room for what most agents seem to be selling, according to these stats, at least the subscribers that they have. That's what, 76% have a budget of under 200 grand, of which half of that have a budget of under 100 grand. Now, there's not really many places in the Costa del Sol you can buy for under 100 grand that isn't a shed. Even in other parts of Spain, like Costa Blanca, you're not going to get a great deal for those sort of prices. Now, out of the 7,000 people that responded to the survey, 61% are looking at Spain, which is what we're looking at. So this is a fairly good number. And then within Spain, almost half are looking at Costa Blanca, and 40%, 39% are looking for the Costa del Sol. So again, that refers to us. And then scrolling down a little bit more, this is how Brexit specifically has impacted their plans to buy a property. I'm not really going to pay attention to this first one because it doesn't really make much sense. 70-40, and referring to Brexit, this is where they've been looking for information about Brexit and in relation to their property purchase. They're saying that the most common locations where they're finding information or where they're searching is on websites and portals, the newspapers, or government sources and online webinars. So websites and portals makes sense, but really telling anything we couldn't have guessed. The interesting thing is they found the most interesting, useful information from websites and portals as opposed to government sites. So this kind of then goes back to that point where only 14% say that they believe that changes brought by Brexit have been successfully communicated. Now, part of the reason why changes by Brexit haven't been particularly well communicated in relation to Spain, at least, is that Spain hasn't communicated what the changes are. So it has left lawyers and other people to basically follow the line of thought that that UK is no longer in Europe. So whatever rules apply to a country outside of Europe where there's no agreement apply to Brits. But that's just a process of elimination. The main point from what I've gathered, and I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my advice on this, but I see that the issue seems to be that Spain hasn't pronounced itself on how it intends to enforce this and what agreements they're going to make, what level of flexibility, aside from the TIE cards that kind of got pounced upon us last year, late on in the year. It really hasn't stated, so therefore the British press are grabbing onto sensationalism where people have left Spain because technically they shouldn't be here after 90 days and that kind of stuff, without a residency, and now they're going to be deported and all that kind of stuff. And really that's a load of baloney because Spain hasn't pronounced itself. It is interesting to think that where Brits are resorting to get their information about how Brexit's affected them, we're going to affect their approaches, are websites and portals. So it looks like we in the real estate industry are doing the job that the government should be doing. But that's it. That's all I can really take away from this. It seems like they're still looking to buy. Budgets, at least those on A Place in the Sun, for Spanish properties are pretty low, the majority of them. Now, I'm not expecting to see budgets of 5 million up to be any large percentage, because that's not just representative of the market. But what we would class the mid-range doesn't seem to be very represented by the stats, i.e. 250, 300 grand, at least here in the Costa del Sol, up to 750, 800 if you're talking about villas thrown into the mix. That isn't representative. 74% is under 200 grand. That's what we would call bottom range, at least here in the Costa del Sol. And that's it. I've reviewed the Placing the Sun's report so that you don't have to. Catch you soon. Have a good weekend.